And for more of this, we're being joined by Dr. Malcolm Davis from Canberra, Australia. He's a senior analyst in defence strategy at Australian Strategic Policy Institute and a military expert. Thank you so much, Mr. Davis, for joining us on WION World is One.
It's my pleasure.
Mr. Davis, over the last few hours, we've witnessed India respond to not just the Pahalgam terror attack, but nearly 2 decades-long terrorism with Operation Sindoor. And while India has precisely targeted the terrorist infrastructure in Pakistan, Pakistan has responded with indiscriminate shelling on military and civilian infrastructure, along with rampant ceasefire violations along the line of control, and has also engaged in digital warfare with fake news and misinformation being their weapon of choice. So, Mr. Davis, what's your assessment of the situation between India and Pakistan right now?
Well, certainly I would argue that India and Pakistan are in a war situation. It's not some sort of military incident, it's an actual war. And so I think that both sides, both India and Pakistan, need to be cautious going forward, because neither side appears to be ready to look for off-ramps to de-escalate the situation, but that's precisely what they need to do. You know, from the perspective of the international community, there is grave concern, quite understandably, because both India and Pakistan have nuclear weapons, and no one wants to see this escalate out of control to the point whereby one side or the other decides to use a nuclear weapon. So I think that there is now going to be increasing pressure on India and Pakistan to both combatants to de-escalate rather than let this escalate.
Well, Mr. Davis, none of the sides have officially called it a war yet, but it's definitely a war against terrorism. Now, in light of the latest developments, do you think that India's calibrated and measured response marks a shift in its traditional posture? And is India perhaps heading towards a new era of diplomacy, a new era of strategy? And if so, what message does this send to the international community?
Look, I think India was always going to retaliate against that original terrorist attack that killed 26 people. But, you know, I think that what needs to happen now is for Delhi and Islamabad to recognize that they have to scale things back, they have to de-escalate. And I think from an Indian perspective, you know, they've got a responsibility as one of the world's leading powers to make sure that this doesn't spin out of control. I think that what you are seeing in terms of their actual use of force is quite precise and calibrated. And, you know, I think that the Indians have demonstrated very effective military capabilities over the last few days. I think that, you know, whilst you note that no one's calling it a war, I think these days no one actually really declares war, but war happens. So I do think that both sides need to be cognizant of the risk going forward. Neither side should really want this to escalate out of control to the point whereby nuclear weapons use becomes a real threat.
Absolutely, Mr. Davis. And building on what you've just said, global reactions are also pouring in. And while the predominant stance remains that of exercising restraint and encouraging de-escalation, the latest official statements released by US State Department calls for Islamabad to end its support to terrorism. Now, it's an accusation that Islamabad has always denied. But given that this time it's coming from United States and not India, how do you anticipate Islamabad responding to this pressure?
Look, as I said in an interview a few days ago, any fight against terrorism is a good fight, because terrorism is one of the evils of our age. So I do think that, you know, it should not only be India fighting against terrorism, it should be Islamabad as well fighting against terrorism. It hurts Pakistan's interests to have terrorist groups operating out of the territory that they control in Jammu and Kashmir or out of Pakistan itself. So I think that it's in Pakistan's interest to clamp down on international terrorism, and I think that's why you are seeing this pressure now from the United States on Pakistan to stop supporting terrorist groups like Lashkar-e-Taiba that basically has been undertaking terrorist attacks over past years. And I think if Pakistan would do that, that would potentially open up an opportunity for an off-ramp that both sides could then take and de-escalate this situation.
Right, Mr. Davis, it's a developing situation and we'll have to wait and watch to actually witness how the situation progresses from here. But for now, thank you so much for joining us on this broadcast and sharing your perspective with us.
Thank you.